Alright, so we are about to graph some linear inequalities. Good stuff here. Alright, so I'm going to make my graph, I think, a little bit smaller. If I can figure out how to do that. Oh, there we go. I think you guys can still see that. And it'll give me more room to work. Alright, so when I'm talking about an inequality or a linear inequality, I'm talking about an inequality that has two variables. We're going to have an x and we're going to have a y. And it's going to look like an equation, except instead of an equal sign, we're going to have an inequality symbol. So let's go ahead and look here at our first inequality that we want to graph. We're going to say that we have y is greater than or equal to 7 over 2x plus 4. Okay, so just as I would have done before, I am going to find a slope and a y-intercept. So my slope is 7 over 2, that's the number in front of the x, right there, and my y-intercept is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by graphing the slope and the y-intercept. My y-intercept goes first, that's my anchor point, so I count up on my y-axis, 1, 2, 3, and there's 4, so I'm going to put a little dot right there. And then my slope tells me that I need to go up 7 and right 2. Whoops, let me pause this. Alright, so anyhow, I think I was saying we have to rise 7 and run 2, but our graph isn't large enough, so we're going to have to do something else instead. And what we're going to do is go back to our original point, and we're going to count down. We're going to do the opposite, so we'll count down 7. There's 4 right there, and then 5, 6, 7, and then we're going to go left 2, and we'll put a dot right there. And again, I can continue to do that down 7 and over 2, but I'm going to run out of room. So I can actually only fit those two ordered pairs on my coordinate system for this particular inequality. Now, here's the tricky part with this, is you look at this inequality, and if I see this equal to bar right there, that tells me whether or not I make a solid or a dotted line. If it's equal to, I want to make a solid line. So let's see here, let's make this official. Let's go ahead and, I don't even know what I just did there. It's going to work. What did I do? Let's go ahead and draw a line. I don't know if it's going to let me do that, so I'm not going to try to do it. I'll do it this way. Through these 2 points. Just like that. Alright, and it's solid. I'm allowed to make it solid again because there's an equal to bar here. Now the second thing I have to decide is where I'm going to shade, and this is something that we didn't do when we were graphing just an equation. An equation is just a line. I look at my symbol again, and this time I look at the arrow part of the symbol, and it's a greater than symbol. So what that tells me is that I want all of this stuff that's above the line right here. Okay, all this stuff up here as well. So all my solutions to my inequality are on the solid line because it's solid, and all of these points that lie in that area above the line because I'm greater than. Alright, now if above the line doesn't make sense to you, I can show you another way here that enables you to figure out where you need to graph, or where you need to shade rather. And here's how I do it. I pick a point that's not actually on the line, and 0, 0, this point right here, is the one that I choose if it's not on the line. Sometimes you can't because it's on the line, but I want to pick 0, 0, and I'll write that I'm checking down here where to shade, so I'll just write the word check. And I'll write my inequality, y is greater than or equal to 7 over 2x plus 4. And if I plug in 0 for y and 0 for x, alright, I'm going to see that 7 over 2 times 0 is gone, and I'm going to be left with a statement saying that 0 is bigger than or equal to 4. And you have to ask yourself, is that true? Is 0 bigger than or equal to 4? And it's not. So that tells me that on this side where 0, 0 was, since I plugged it in and it did not work, that means I don't shade on that side. I shade on the opposite side. So that's another way you can figure out where to shade with these inequalities. Alright, so let's clear this off here and let's look at another one then. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that. Oh well, no big deal. I'm going to have to change my graph every time I do this. Okay, anyhow, no big deal. So the next inequality I wanted to look at is y is less than or equal to negative 2/3 x minus 3. Alright, so the first thing I need to do here is get a slope and a y-intercept. So slope is negative 2/3. Y-intercept is negative 3, and I'm going to go ahead and graph those the y-intercept, which is at negative 3. You go down 3 right there. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to graph some more points using my slope. My slope is down 2 and then positive 3, so that's over this way. 1, 2, 3. Down 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. Alright, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go back to where I originally was, and I'm going to do the opposite. Up 2, left 3. 1, 2, 3. Up 2, left 1, 2, 3. And I'm out of room. Now, I fit 5 ordered pairs on here. That's good. Now I'm going to go up and I'm going to look at my inequality symbol, and I see that it has that equal to bar, so that gives me the okay to go ahead and make my line solid. You'll see in the next two examples we do that it's going to be a dotted line. Now I just have to figure out where I'm going to shade, and I look and I see that it's less than. Less than means below, so I'm going to shade all of this area below the line. Alright, if below doesn't make sense to you, I can go back to checking by picking a point, and I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I have to pick a point that is not on the line. This time 0, 0 is open right there. I could use that, but it's not going to work because it's not in the shaded area, so I'm going to pick a point that's actually in the shaded area. Let's use a color that we'll be able to see. Let's use green, and let's pick how about we pick 3, -8. That's right there. That should work. Should be on this. It should work because it's in the side that I think needs to be shaded. So let me write that down. 3, -8, and we'll plug that in and see what happens, and we'll use black here because it'll be easier to see. So let's write down our inequality, and let's plug in the ordered pair that we think should work. So -8 is our y. -2/3 times 3 minus 3. Alright. The 3's will cancel out. That's good. That's why I picked that point. So I have -8 is less than or equal to -2, right here, -2, minus 3, and that becomes -8 is less than or equal to -5. Now if I think about that, -8 is less than -5. That's a true statement. It has to be less than or equal to. It's not going to be both. It's impossible to be both. Since it's less than, that's a true statement, and so that tells me that I should shade on the side where that green point came from, and so I shaded in the right spot. Okay, so you can always check that way as well if you want a foolproof method of seeing whether you shaded in the right spot or not. Alright, let's do 2 more here. We'll go through them a little more quickly because we've already done 2, and I'm hoping that you guys have the idea of what's going on here. So let's see here. Let's go with y is less than -x plus 2. Alright, so we find a slope, -1. If you want to make it a fraction, put a 1 underneath. Y-intercept is 2. And let's go ahead and graph starting with our anchor point at 2. That's a huge dot, but oh well, we'll use it. Alright, the slope says go down 1 right one, down one, right one, down one, right one. Okay, I could do that for a while. Let's go in the opposite direction. Up one, left one, up, left, up, left, up, left. Alright, that's enough. Be here all day doing this. Alright, so now this time when I go to draw my line, don't just go ahead and draw the line. Look at your inequality symbol. It's not equal to. Alright? That tells me that when I draw this line, I actually don't want a solid line. I want a dotted line. Okay, so draw a fancy little dotted line there for yourself. Alright, and that's because there's no equal to bar. And now I have to figure out where I'm shading. And I see less than, so that means below my line. Alright. And if I wanted to check, I could pick a point that's down there. Let's pick 0, 0 because it's not on my line and it's where I think I need to shade. So let's go ahead and pick that one. So let's check here by putting in 0, 0. So I have y is less than negative x plus 2. If I put in 0 and 0, I get 0 is less than negative 0. That doesn't exist. It's really negative 1 times 0, which is 0, plus 2. And that gives me 0 is less than 2. Is that true? It is true. I can put a little check mark there. And so that means I shaded in the right area because that purple point, 0, 0, works. Alright, if I'd have picked a point over here in the unshaded area, it wouldn't work. Let's go ahead and do one more. Whoops. Alright, make that a little smaller. Our inequality for this one is y is greater than 2x minus 3. I think that's what I wanted to do. Yep, that's it. Alright, let's go ahead and do it. Slope and y-intercept. Slope is 2. Make it a fraction if you want. Put a 1 underneath it. Y-intercept is negative 3. Alright. Go ahead and go down to negative 3. Put our anchor point that's coming from this B right here, that y-intercept. The slope says go up 2, go right 1. Go up 2, go right 1. Up 2, right 1. Did I do that right? Yeah, I did. Up 2, right 1. Up 2, right 1. Ran out of room. I'm going to go back to where I started, my anchor point, and do the opposite. Down 2, left 1. Down 2, left 1. Alright, that's a lot of points. Oh well. That'll make my graph a little more accurate. Now, when I go to determine whether or not this is going to be solid or dotted, I look at this inequality. If it doesn't have the equal to, that means dotted. Or dashed, however you want to think about it. So I'll make my dashed line there. Alright, now it says, or now I have to shade, so I see it's greater than, and that means shade above the line. Okay. Quick check. If I wanted to check, let's use my 0, 0. See how it's not on the line, so I can use it. We'll do it in red. This should work since 0, 0 is in the area that I think is shaded. So let's see. Let's put down our inequality. Put 0 in everywhere we have a variable. And I get 0 is bigger than, that's 0 minus 3. I get 0 is bigger than negative 3. That's true. If you don't have any money, that's better than owing somebody $3. So 0 is bigger. And that means that I shaded in the right side, the side with 0, 0. Alright, so things we need to remember before we wrap this up. If you have a greater than or less than symbol without the equal to bar, it's a dotted line. If you're greater than, you shade above. If you're less than, you shade below. And you can always check by plugging a point in that's not on the line. When you plug that point in, if it works out, that means you shade on the same side as that point. And if you plug the point in and it doesn't work, then that means you have to shade on the opposite side of your line. That's how you'd graph inequalities.